What's up everyone? Welcome to another video. In this video, I will be installing this paver block stair kit from Menards. I did have to modify it to fit it here, but I made it work and I'm happy with it. So let's check it out. Let's start at the beginning. I have this door that's in need for some stairs. I temporarily used some cinder blocks for a step. The way I got here, all of this, all the way down, was a 30-year-old wooden deck that was in need of some costly repairs, but I decided to remove it and replace it with a stone patio. First, I tore off all the deck boards. Several of the joists were in the dirt on this lower portion, which is no good. This deck needed to go. Next, I put down heavy-duty landscaping fabric. Then a base layer of crushed concrete that was leveled and compacted. And last, a layer of stone that was compacted. So, that was a whole project on its own, and I wish I would have made a video, but sometimes I just need to get things done. This was an awesome alternative to rebuilding the deck or pouring a concrete patio. It's zero maintenance, will last forever, and the cost was in the hundreds instead of the tens of thousands, and I'm really happy with it. After adding a couple rows of siding where the ledger boards were, I was left with this. I took this dimension and copied it over here, so the stair width would be centered on the door opening. One option was to build wooden steps, which I cut plenty of good lumber from the deck joists for. And another option was pouring concrete steps, similar to my front door steps. But then, as I was walking toward the entrance at Menards, I saw this. Stone steps for a stone patio could be cool. It looked pretty simple, and the cost was relatively low, and it looked good enough to me. So, that's how I ended up here with this stair kit from Menards. They offer it in a 2-step, a 3-step, and a 4-step, and each one has 3 variations, which are 2 feet 8 inches wide, 3 feet wide, and 4 feet wide. And looking at the assembly instructions, the wall blocks are available in 4 different colors, and the step caps are available in 3 different colors, so there's a lot of different options. My area is measuring in at about 44.5 inches wide by 13 inches tall. So I went with the 2-step that's 48 inches wide by 14 inches tall. I can adjust the ground level for the steps to fit perfect, and I can also cut the length of the steps to fit perfect in the opening. This kit requires 18 blocks, 6 steps, and 4 tubes of adhesive. I bought everything independently, and I went with the quarry gray for the blocks and the steps. I will point out that after walking around and looking for these blocks for a long time, I was told that the step blocks were special order, so I left empty-handed and ordered everything online. So heads up, plan ahead and order everything early if you have a specific day you would like to do this project. Then, about 4 days later, everything was ready to pick up, so I went and got it. And here we are back at the house. We have 6 step blocks, 18 wall blocks, and 4 tubes of adhesive. Taking a close look at the wall blocks, they are rugged with a rough tumble finish. That's just their intended aesthetic. And their exact dimensions are 14 inches long by 7 inches wide by 3.5 inches thick. And looking at the step blocks, they are clean flat faces with sharp edges, except for one face, which is the decorative rugged face. And the exact dimensions are 16 inches long by 12 to 12.5 inches wide because of the rugged face, and 3.5 inches thick. First I'll set them up here on a flat surface where I can get a good look at everything and get good dimensions. And here's a look at the first layer. And here's the second layer, which is more blocks and the first step. And here's a better look of what's going on so far. The overall width of the steps is longer than the overall width of the support blocks, so I centered the middle step first, then put the ends on, so the overhang is the same on both sides. And here's the next layer, the last 3 blocks along the back. And here's the final layer, the last 3 step blocks. Again, I centered the middle block and then added the end blocks, so the overhang is equal on both ends. There are definitely different and maybe simpler ways to do this, but it's a modular design to suit all of the different variations that they advertise. And it has a rugged look if that's what you're into, with clean, flat stepping surfaces. And here are some exact overall dimensions if you need them. The step is 48 inches long. The core is 42 inches long. The rear step is 14 inches tall. The front step is 7 inches tall. The core is 21 inches deep. And the overall width of the step is about 23 inches, plus a little more because of surface roughness. And testing the steps, they are solid and work fine. I can walk up them, and I can walk down them. They will do the job. The last part of the process is adhesive. Without it, the steps can tip if I step on the front edge. Before you glue everything in place, make sure you place the tiles where you want them. and flip them with the correct side up. For example, this corner sticks way out, and this corner concaves in pretty far. I will not want these right next to each other in the final arrangement. On that note, there is the top side. This side edge has a chamfer, the top edge has a chamfer, and the other side has a chamfer, but the bottom edge does not. It's a sharp corner. This is the top, and this is the bottom. Now if you're just placing the kit as is, in a spot like this, you're good to go. I'm using it in this specialized cutout, so I will need to customize it quite a bit to fit here, which is more complicated, but doable, so let's do it. The first step is a solid foundation. A leveling pad is recommended unless local building code requires concrete or some other foundation. The leveling pad recommendation is a minimum of 4 to 6 inches thick. Fortunately, I already have about 4 inches of crushed concrete base under here from the stone patio project. I took extra care to level it out and tamp it down. The instructions also say to make the pad surface 1 or 2 inches below grade to help further prevent shifting, but I'm not doing that because this 14-inch height is critical and I can't dig the pad lower. Next, I already have full metal flashing behind the house wrap. This flashing was added in case I built a little wooden deck or stairs, but I'm not doing that, so I don't need it. Next, I would normally center these foundation blocks on the door. This will result in a 1-inch gap over here and a 1-inch gap over here. I'm choosing to shift everything over so everything is flush with the cutout. This will result in a 2-inch foundation block gap over here, but I'll deal with it. I'd rather not have to deal with a gap over here. So I laid all of the blocks in place. This is just a dry run. First, I put everything in place to make sure everything fits properly. Then I'll go back and apply the adhesive and lock everything permanently. I eliminated the step overhang and set everything flush with the cutout in the siding. And I will need to cut these 2 blocks to fit. The top one 12 1/4 and the bottom 12 5/8. And I will also need to notch around this corner. Here's the bottom step, which is the easy one. It's just a straight cut. I have a full dedicated video for cutting paver blocks, which I will link down in the video description. But very quickly, I mark the cut all the way around the block, then cut it all the way around. The blade isn't large enough of a diameter to go all the way through, so it's still attached with a core in the center. Then give it several whacks with a hammer and it will fall off. And last, clean up the center core to get a flat surface. And that's how I do it. These faces are not visible, so it does the job. But recall that these blocks have a chamfer on the edges, so I added a chamfer to match. And here we are, installing the last bottom step block, which will complete the bottom step. I put the short block in the center, so the right and left blocks are equal, to maintain a look of symmetry. Now I just need to cut the top center and the top left. And here they are. First I had to slide the top left block over into place since it's tucked under the siding in the corner. Then I pushed the center block into place. And everything is looking good overall. Everything is fitting as desired in the cutout in the siding. One thing I don't like is this 2-inch gap between the foundation and the support blocks, which I knew about, and now it's time to address them. I will use the scraps that I cut off of the step blocks to fill these in. I used both of them, and they ended up working out perfect. Here's one of the scrap blocks modified for the vertical block, and the other scrap block for the horizontal block. It's in 2 pieces because it cracked in half, but it is what it is, and I'm rolling with it. And finally, let's reinstall all of the step blocks to finalize the dry fit. And here it is. Not too bad for using the scraps. Everything is flush and a good fit. And that completes the dry fit. Everything fits well, and I'm satisfied with it. Now it's time to disassemble everything and reassemble it with adhesive. The instructions say to apply adhesive to all adjacent faces, so I reassembled the steps, applying adhesive to all contact surfaces as I went, top, bottom, and sides. This specific adhesive has a 20-minute working time and needs 24 hours to fully cure. Everything turned out well as expected, and I used just under 2 tubes of adhesive, which is great, because I can return these 2 unused tubes. The adhesive was about 1/3 of the project cost, so I will get a little chunk of money back. And that gets us to the end. It's a pretty straightforward kit. It's just stacking blocks, and it could be an excellent choice if this aesthetic appeals to you. I had to make quite a few modifications to make it fit for my application, and I may have been better off designing different paver block stairs from scratch. But this was a good starting point, and I made it work, and you get to see what the kit is all about. So that wraps this up. I hope you found it helpful or entertaining. Subscribe for more how-to and review videos. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.